Hello, Eagles Nation. Vincent Foast here, and welcome to a Week 11 Eagles Chat. We're here at Eagles Chat. We get down right to the news you want to hear on your birds. But before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe to the Eagles Chat YouTube channel, as well as following us on Instagram at Chat Eagles, where you can find daily updates on your birds. And you can also find our Instagram in the description of this Eagles Chat video. But now, let's get right into it. And as we all know, the Eagles went up against the Washington Commanders. It was a big statement game, and the Eagles certainly made a statement. Maybe not so much in the first half, but they definitely made a statement in the second half, especially the fourth quarter. The Birds are able to get the job done, improving themselves to 8-2 on the campaign and making their first place position in the NFC East a little more comfortable, getting that win over the Commanders. But now, let's start off first with the injury update. So no big-time injuries on this injury update. There's just two players that we are monitoring very, very closely, one being Landon Dickerson. Those of you who saw the beginning of the game, Landon Dickerson went down. I'm pretty sure the first couple plays in, he went down, looked like he rolled his ankle a little bit, especially I think someone fell on top of his leg and rolled his ankle again, like I said. So he came off, wasn't putting that much pressure on it, but was able to return and persevere and push on during the game. So glad to see him return. So we're going to be monitoring that very, very closely. And as well with Jalen Hurts, who was obviously, that was the big news. He went into the blue tent, was being monitored for a concussion. Good thing is he was negative for a concussion. So we're going to continue to monitor these two very, very closely. Now, obviously, the Eagles, in a way, kind of have a mini bye week, as they don't play a game again until not this Sunday, but next Sunday. So they got a little bit of time off until they go up against the Rams in LA, which will be coming up on November 24th. So they got some time. So hopefully if there is any little injuries that happen, even during practice, they'll have a good amount of time to heal up. So we'll continue to monitor these both very, very closely. But again, no big-time injuries came out of yesterday's game, which is always a positive sign. But now, going into Jalen Hurts' play. So yes, we got the win. You know, that's definitely something to be very proud about, especially against the Commanders team, which has been on a roll as of late. Yes, this is their second loss in a row for the Commanders, but they haven't been playing that bad as of recent. So this is definitely something. I mean, having Jaden Daniels back there in QB spot, a kid that's really developing for the Commanders, they have something to really look forward to. But I think the Eagles did make a statement. But speaking of that statement, like I said in the beginning, that was only in the second half. What happened in the first half? Well, going into halftime, the Eagles were losing 7-3, only had 3 points in that first half, and the offense really was not clicking at all. And this really, in my opinion, does bring room for concern. Now, I did also hear some WIP hosts talking about this as well after the game. And yes, I understand they won, and I understand the team they were going up against yesterday was not like the Dallas Cowboys last week, where the Dallas Cowboys are an absolute mess. The Washington Commanders have something going, and they're pretty dang okay of a team. So, yes, I understand you're going up against a team that is not, like the New York Giants or the Carolina Panthers, things like that. I get that, but it's definitely something where Jalen Hurts' decision-making and his hesitation is causing me some concern. It is definitely giving me a reason to be concerned. And looking at this, especially in the beginning of the game, there were many times where if Jalen Hurts would have got that ball out a lot quicker, he would have had his receivers open. I think he waits too long. By the time he throws the ball, his receivers already have a guy on him. And I saw it a couple times with A.J. Brown yesterday. And you could see by A.J. Brown's body language, he wasn't exactly that happy with one of those passes that was underthrown, where Brown, you could see he put his arms down both at his side and didn't look that happy at all, was pretty frustrated, as Hurts was just not finding his receivers yesterday. I still think his ability to read a defense, especially his ability to read a blitz, is extremely tough. It seems to be extremely tough for him, as he's just not picking up his receivers. I think as well with his ability to lead his receivers on, which we did see that a couple times in the second half yesterday with DeVonta Smith. He had one play where he led DeVonta Smith on for a really, really good catch and a really, really good gain, but I don't think he's quite doing that enough. And another reason for concern is, yes, you have to give kudos to that defense. That defense played its rear end off. They had an incredible game, but that idea always enters the back of my mind where, what if your defense doesn't come out like they did yesterday? What if your defense isn't having a good game? Then what do? You look at that, folks. The defense held them in that game for that first half and as well for a little bit of the second half when the offense still was not producing yet. So that idea always enters the back of my mind. What if the defense didn't show up yesterday? Would we be talking about a completely different scenario? That's the big question, because how long did it take that offense to really get going and really get their sea legs under them? It took them a good while. And yes, although on the fourth quarter they really started to take it to them, especially with Saquon Barkley having a great run, and of course that 39-yard rushing touchdown for Barkley at the end, which pretty much was the final punch in the gut for the Commanders. That is definitely something where they came alive at the end. But these first half woes, I don't see them getting better. Remember, the Eagles still only have 14 points scored in the first quarter, so there's no improvement there. The amount of times they punted yesterday, and yes, I understand your field goal kicker was not doing the best either, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But first, before we get into that, let's go over Jalen Hurts' stats. 18 out of 28 for his passing, 221 yards. And for rushing, he had 10 carries for 39 yards, and he had 1 rushing touchdown. Of course, that was on the tush push, which was their first touchdown of the game. So, yeah, it's my ability, Jalen Hurts' ability to get passes out of the pocket quick, to really dart those passes across, is something that's a little concerning, where his receivers are wide open, but again, by the time he decides to throw, they're already covered. And I also have that feeling where if those receivers aren't wide open, it seems like Jalen Hurts just doesn't throw it to them. I don't know if it's his hesitation of last season where he had a good amount of interceptions last year. I don't know if it's because he doesn't want to really pile that interception number up, where he's a little hesitant on those squeaking the football in there. That could be it. But it's definitely something where his hesitation is a big factor. The accuracy sometimes on him overthrowing his receivers, or just not picking up a receiver that is wide open, which I saw quite a few times yesterday as well, where it's just something a little concerning. Yes, the Eagles got the win, but these first half woes are definitely, I'm not sitting on the best side of things watching the Eagles in the first half right now. I know a lot of Eagles fans are thinking the same thing, so that is definitely something that is a little concerning. And again, if your defense didn't have a great game, what situation would we be sitting in right now? That is the big question. But now, let's go into what happened to Jake Elliott. What happened to Elliott? I mean, yesterday we have 2 field goals that were missed and an extra point. So that is 7 points right off the bat that are just disappeared. And that is something, again, where if you're going up against, some of these real big-time playoff contenders like the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions, even the Baltimore Ravens as well, I don't know how much things like that are going to fly, because every single point matters, especially if you're looking to make a good playoff push. Yeah, things like that really can't happen. And as well, for example, what if the Eagles end up getting into a clutch situation where field goal is the last option and it's only 2 seconds left in the fourth quarter, and here we go, we're setting up for a game-winning field goal. Now what do you do? As Jake Elliott yesterday was pulling all of his kicks, yes, from the back where they showed the field goal, he was pulling it to the right, but if you're facing the upright, he was really pulling it to the left. So, yeah, Jake Elliott was pulling a lot of his kicks yesterday to the left. And yes, there was some breeze, but those balls were going off target from the very beginning of that kick. The wind was not going to move the ball that much. That was a kick that was going offline right from the beginning. So that definitely causes some room for concern. Again, some people were saying maybe it's because they don't use them as much as they should, especially looking at past games where obviously that Jacksonville game where Nick Sirianni didn't really know the definition of a kicker or a definition of a field goal, where he was going for it every single time. So some people were saying his lack of use is something that could be getting to him. I don't know. But what I do know is it's something where he had one at the very end of the game where he had an extra point and it was down the middle. All the other ones were kind of either just squeezed it in there or he missed them. And that is something that I saw a big theme of yesterday, where he was just pulling that ball to the left every single time he kicked, except for that last extra point at the end of the game with that Saquon Barkley touchdown. So, yes, a little room for concern right there on the kicker, especially knowing Jake Elliott, who's been an absolute stud in this league for ever since I can remember, ever since he came to the Eagles as a rookie. And now let's go on to the offense now. Obviously, big game. Not even going to say anything else. Player of the game here, Saquon Barkley. There's not much else to say. Had 2 incredible rushing touchdowns. The second one obviously being that gut punch to the Commanders with that 39-yard touchdown. So really nice to see this out of Saquon Barkley. He was really taking it to him yesterday. Had an incredible game. And, hey, let's go over his stats. 26 carries, 146 yards. Obviously the 2 touchdowns as well. So, yeah, Barkley really showed up and was someone to really run it down the Commanders' throats. Commanders were doing a great job yesterday of clogging up the middle. And I was kind of surprised that Kellen Moore was not calling more plays of him running around the edges, that have taken the edges, as again, the Commanders' defensive line was doing an incredible job with filling up that middle section, not allowing the Eagles to really create any slots, running slots through the middle of that defensive line. They did it sometimes with Gainwell. They were able to slide him through a couple times, but for the majority of the time, the Commanders did a good job clogging up that center. So I was kind of surprised that Kellen Moore didn't design more edge runs for Saquon Barkley. But hey, at the end of the day, he still had one heck of a game, and that's all that matters. But now let's go on to the defense. First player of the game, defensive player of the game for the defense, Nakobe Dean, who was all over the place, had great pressure on Jaden Daniels. So great to see Nakobe Dean on there. Someone who's really improving week after week after week. At the beginning of the season, he was struggling a little bit with his tackling ability. But man, talk about someone who's really improved their game. He was thought to be a good stud last year. The only problem was he was hurt with, really haunted by a lot of injuries. But this season, he's been an absolute clutch linebacker for the Birds and really has been improving, like I said, week after week. But speaking of clutch linebackers, a guy who seems to make a home here on the Eagles Chat Defensive Player of the Game, a guy who's on this Eagles Chat pretty much every single dang week, and that is Zack Baun, who had another incredible game. 14 tackles for Zack Baun. This guy, I tell you what, I don't even know what to say anymore. This is an incredible pickup for the Birds. Someone who, ever since he came here, has been an absolute star of a player. And in my opinion, is definitely earned a spot to be a Pro Bowler for the Birds. I definitely think he's someone that now you see him, now you don't. All of a sudden, he pops out of nowhere and just makes an incredible tackle. And strong tackles as well. Not just these little ones where they aim for the knees all the time. Zack Baun makes strong tackles, along with Nakobe Dean, another one. Both these linebackers have been absolutely clutch for the Birds and have been performing so good each and every week. And that is why this defense have had so much success, because both of these guys have been absolutely incredible with clogging up the gaps, making clutch tackles when needed to, and even help out with the secondary a lot. So this is something that is really, really great to see. Two clutch linebackers playing their game extremely well. And again, that's why this defense, in my opinion, is doing as well as they have been doing. Yes, the defensive line has been doing better, but these linebackers in general have been helping in such a big way. It's so nice to see these guys performing at the high rate that they are playing as well. Reed Blankenship had a great game yesterday. He had, of course, that interception. So great to see Reed Blankenship on the board there as well. Jalen Carter had a good game. Jordan Davis, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, they all had a great game. Josh Sweat having a sack, Brandon Graham having a sack. So these guys had an incredible game yesterday. Like I said, ever since Clint Hurt took over that defensive line, has been the defensive line coach. Obviously, he was hired in the offseason. This defensive line started off very shaky, but man, they went from shaky to being extremely strong, standing their ground, and being, again, that great pass rushing defense that we've known them to be for, it's been more than 5 years now that the Eagles have been known to be an extremely aggressive pass rushing defensive line. And hey, I'm glad to see them returning to that title of theirs. So great to see these guys, especially veterans like BG, performing better and better week after week. But now, yeah, with that being said, this is their next game. We got some time as Eagles fans until the next game, going up against the LA Rams in SoFi Stadium. That, of course, will be Sunday, November 24th on Sunday Night Football. So, yeah, we won't see the Birds again until their next primetime game on Sunday Night Football on November 24th. The one game until the last game until Thanksgiving. Can't believe Turkey Day is just around the corner. It's crazy. And then, obviously, everyone knows what happens right after Thanksgiving ends. We all know what goes up and what type of decorations go up right after Thanksgiving. Christmas will be here before you know it as well. But I don't want to rush things because they're already coming faster and faster week after week. So the last thing I need to do is rush things myself. So next game here for the Birds. Hopefully they can continue their winning ways, get their 7th win of a row, hopefully with getting a victory here. But hey, let's enjoy this victory against the Washington Commanders, making a huge statement game for the Birds and sitting comfortably, hopefully, and stay sitting comfortably in the NFC East #1 spot. So hopefully the Birds can keep this going. But hey, Eagles fans, let's enjoy this game, shall we? Let's enjoy this big win over the Washington Commanders in South Philadelphia. Hope you all have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend, and as well, have a good week, because I will not see you until not this Monday, but the next Monday coming up. Hopefully you all have a great week. Have a great weekend. Stay safe, folks, and stay blessed. And as I always say, go Birds! Have a good weekend, everybody. I will see you back here to cover the LA Rams Birds game. See you then.